Yeah, afternoon all. Good afternoon to everyone who's joined from Australia and New Zealand, and welcome all for those who are joined globally. I'll quickly start with an intro. I'm Ronak Panchal. I am one of the digital chapter leads at ASB, and I look after the testing practices for ASB Digital. Outside work, I'm also the board member for ANZTB. So that stands for Australia New Zealand Testing Board. So we are a not-for-profit organization which look after and support the testing profession as a whole in Australia and New Zealand. We are associated with ISTQB, so we govern all the offerings of ISTQB in Australia and New Zealand. One of the things we do is also run SIGiST. So SIGiST is a learning forum wherein testers interact with each other and learn a few bits from each other. So this is one of the SIGiST. We are here. So this is an online webinar, and we would actually like to keep this as interactive as possible. So I assume you guys might have either joined through YouTube or through Facebook. So please feel free to post your comments there, and we would take the questions towards the end. So today, we in this live webinar, we've got Aravind Sridharamoorthy from Melbourne live. So a bit about Aravind. So Aravind is a test engineering principal in NBN with about 15 years of experience in both performance testing and automation testing. So he's implemented performance testing in the CICD framework for multiple projects in Telstra and NBN. A fun fact about Arvind is he's a certified yoga teacher and he's conducting community yoga classes in Melbourne. So, welcome, Arvind.
Thanks, Ronak.
Yeah, so over to you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for joining today's session. Okay, just let me know whether you can see my screen. Yeah, I think I can see that. Yeah, so just a second. Yeah, I'm just bringing it in presentation mode. Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how we can deploy WireMock in Amazon EKS and use it as a mock services for carrying out load tests. Okay, so I have around 15 years of experience and mostly in load testing. Quite often, the challenge I face when I test a system is the system under test interacts with multiple other systems, and we have a dependency on all other systems. And when it comes to testing, sometimes it happens like the dependent system or third party system is down or has some issues, or even after testing, we get to know like the issue happened with the third party system rather than the system under test. So this causes a lot of delay in load test execution, as well as in terms of finding issues, delays in getting to the production, all those things. So that's where we use this WireMock services, like basically the mock services. And there are lots of mock services available in the market, like WireMock, Camel, and also like we have Mountebank. So there are a couple of mock services, but today I'm just going to focus on WireMock, and I'm just going to demo how we can use or deploy in that in Amazon EKS and do our testing. Okay. So actually, there are people from different backgrounds. So that's why I thought like, okay, I'll just have a brief introduction to all basic things, and then I can start off with the demo. So now to start with, what is mock? Okay, mock is in simple terms means mimicking something. Okay, we fake some services instead of the actual servers or the real servers, and that helps in our testing as well. We can just mock that service and do our testing. So to start with, if there is a service A which is dependent on service B, and service B is dependent on service C, this is a simple scenario. But in real time, probably the service B might be interacting with service C, service D, or whatever it is. So it's much complicated, right? So what I need is the performance of the service A alone. Okay, the service A component alone. So what I do, I just mock the dependent services and create a mock service and then do my testing on the service A. Here, I'm just mocking the service B. Whatever the service B has to send, the mocked service will send. And this is created by me and have the control. So when the service A requests and process the request or whatever it is, it's just more like I'm just seeing the service A response alone and probably the mock response to some extent, which I can know like overall over a period. Like okay, this even I can give some delays as well as in the mock services to make it more realistic. Okay, so that's how we do and execute the test. Okay, so this is what is mock. Okay, and these days it's be seen like people use stubs mocks service virtualization like that. So that is we are using at stubs instead of mocks. The terminology is totally different. Okay, so as such a stub is more a minimal implementation of an interface, and usually it's returning an hard coded data, a static data. For example, okay, I just send like order creation. Okay, so order creation request. Okay, and then in the response it is more like order created. That's it. That's what I wanted to do. So that is more a stub. Okay, this is tested at unit testing level itself, and like it's more a simple thing. Then comes a mock. Okay, this mock is more bit dynamic. Suppose I send a request, okay, the same order ID with a correlation ID or reference ID, okay. And when the response, I expect the response with the same correlation ID as well as the reference ID, so that I can map like, okay, this is the response I'm expecting, okay, or this is the response for the order that is created. So that's where we use this mock. So where there is a bit of dynamic nature is needed. So the response that is sent by the mock service will have some attributes taken from the request. Okay, so that's where we use this mock service. Then the third one is the virtual service. This is more a product, or it's a testable, usually provided as a SaaS thing, solution as a service. So, and it is much more advanced feature. Okay, advanced. It has advanced features like where you have multiple interactions between the service A and service B or the mock service, and it is more like based on the request. Suppose the request states like give me 5 orders. Okay, then it based on that number 5, you just create your own payload with 5 different responses and club it and send it. And you can have multiple coding logics as well as implemented on this virtual service side. Okay, one such example of this virtual service is CA Lisa. Okay, and these tools cost a lot, and like it's, and because it has more advanced features. If you want to have more details on this difference, probably like I have given a link to the LinkedIn page where it's clearly mentioned the difference between stub, mock, and virtual services. So which is good to read. I'm moving on to the next slide. So now we know what is mock. What is this WireMock? It is yet another mock service tool. Okay, but it has more advanced features. Like first of all, it's a HTTP based API tool, Java based tool, and it is a simulator for HTTP based APIs. And this WireMock, like it has advanced a lot. Like if you see, right, 5 years back and now, we could see like there is many features that has been added, and which brings in more dynamism, and we can send the dynamic response, a lot of dynamic response. So the WireMock, we can have it in two flavors. One is like the library files, and the other one is a standalone jar. This library file is more like we have the files and we use it in our code itself, and just to get the request and response. It's more on the stub level rather than service level. So whereas in the standalone jar, it is more like we uh, deploy this jar on a particular and open a particular port, and we make sure that we hit that on that particular port and get the response. Okay, so these are the two ways we can have this WireMock. So how this WireMock works? Okay, this WireMock is a programmatic mock server. The way it responds to a given request is by storing all the relevant mappings. So just if you see on the right side, you can see like we have a get method and URL path pattern. So what this WireMock does is it matches this specific request patterns, okay, and based on that it sends a response, okay. And this mapping files, right, these are the main things, like where the mapping file defines for what request, what response we have to send, okay. And there are matcher components of this wire mock that matches incoming request to the stored mappings, okay. And if there is a successful match, then it returns that response, okay. That's how it works. So to before we proceed, I just wanted to show you how this wire mock works, okay. So it's a quick demo on WireMock. Yeah. Then these days it's all containers. So I have used the containerized version of this WireMock for this test. Okay. So if you see here, mm, you can see like I have kept the Docker compose file. So what we are doing is we are getting an image, okay. So image of this wire mock on, we are using this port number, and we are using this global response templating. This is where this feature is what that brings many dynamic features in the response. So I'm just adding this as well. Okay, so if you see here, these are the mapping files, and these are the response files that like I will be sending. So for I'm just taking one mapping file. If you see here, there is a method get and the URL part, URL, and in the response, we are having like what response to be sent. So what it means is, if I get a get request with this specific URL, then you send this response. This is what the WireMock does. Okay, so just to give a demo, I'm just putting like Docker. Make sure that your Minikube is on, because I'm using Docker and Windows. Okay, so Docker Compose up. Oh my God. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So this confirms that WireMock is started, and it mentions to which port it is started. Okay. So this is a Dockerized version of WireMock, as I mentioned before. So now if I go to the Postman, and let's start with this GET request. Okay. So I'm just giving this API and then send a request. So it sends a static response. So if you see here, you can get those logs here. Okay. And then I'm just showing the other one where we are here. If you see, right, I'm making a post request to this transform, and I just wanted this ID to be in my response as well. Okay. I wanted to get this response. So what I do, I just, if I send here, you can see like as part of the response, I'm sending an attribute from the request. Okay. So this is where I just wanted to show this, how this response template helps us. So what this response template does is, like once you add this transformers, okay, so it will make sure that you can dynamically search few things from the request and send that as part of the response. And also you can have this UUID features and many such things. Okay, there is a separate page in WireMock for this. Like I can just show you. Okay, response templating. So where they would have considered several options on how we can bring the dynamic response from the WireMock server. Okay, so this also you can see like there is a lot of features in this. Like they would have given examples of each of the features. Like if you want to take particular value alone, or take a particular specific characters from the request, or match a string, and then based on that you send the response. All those things here they would have described. Okay, so this is what is WireMock. Okay, so now I'm moving on to the next slide. Okay, now I just wanted to tell what is EKS. So before we get into what is EKS, I just wanted to give a brief intro of this containers and Kubernetes. Okay, so if you see the picture below on the right side, you can see like how we have evolved to the container deployments. Okay, so initially we have a traditional deployment where we have hardware, one operating system, and apps running on that. Then we had the virtualized virtual deployments where VMs we use, and multiple we just have virtual machines in a single physical machine, and then we use hypervisor and connect to it. So this is the other thing. So, and here if you see, right, we will be having different operating systems. Okay, so the third thing is like a container where we have multiple apps sharing the same operating system. So, in simple terms, what this container is like, when we are moving a code from a staging to testing environment, or from testing to production environment, most often we face like environment related issues. Okay, we have Debian here, we have some other OS in prod, or some configuration related issues, like we would have had a different configuration in the lower environment, whereas in the other environment it is totally different. So that's when what we do is like we club all these features, okay, even the config files, operating systems, everything into one package, so that we test it and just directly move that just we move the package as a whole to the different environment, so that we don't end up in issues. Okay, so this is what container is. So we are not going to have just one container, we'll be having multiple containers for a single application to run. So how we orchestrate or tell like, okay, first you deploy this container, then this container, all those things, that's where this Kubernetes comes into picture. This Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration tool. It is responsible for deploying images and containers, managing the scaling of containers and clusters, resource balancing containers, and traffic management for services. So more details are in the next page. So if you see, right, Kubernetes, it these are the main features of some of the good features of the Kubernetes. So if you see, right, the service discovery and load balancing. Okay, what this Kubernetes does, it exposes a container using the DNS name or using their own IP address. So if a traffic to a container is high, Kubernetes automatically does the load balancing, and it distributes the network traffic so that the deployment is stable. Okay, then the next thing is like the storage orchestration, where it allows you to automatically mount a storage system, and of your choice, either it could be local storage or a cloud or whatever it is. Okay, and then it is automated rollouts and rollbacks. So you can describe what state you want, and based on that, it can automatically roll out to that state. Okay, and the next one is the automatic bin package. So what it does is like you provide Kubernetes with a cluster of nodes, okay, that it can use to run containerized tasks. Then you tell this is the CPU, and this is the memory I want to allocate for this specific container. So based on that, this Kubernetes can do that. Okay, and the third thing is like self-healing. Suppose one container is not available, then automatically you can have the other container automatically coming up, and also that you can replace the containers, and also even you can kill the containers that is not working, and all those things. Okay, it's more a self-healing property we have here. And then again, we can have secret and configuration management. So where we can Kubernetes let you store and manage sensitive information such as password, OAuth tokens, SSH keys, all those things. And you can deploy and update secrets and application configuration without rebuilding your container images. Okay, so these are a couple of good features of Kubernetes. So that's the thing. Then what is this EKS? Okay, so Amazon EKS. So Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service is what we call it as Amazon EKS. It's a managed Kubernetes service that makes it easy for you to run Kubernetes on AWS and on premises. Okay. So this Amazon EKS is a certified Kubernetes conformant. So existing applications that run on upstream Kubernetes are compatible with this EKS. So you have a Kubernetes application, you can just deploy data in AWS using this EKS. Okay, now I want to say like why we are having this WireMock in EKS. Okay, so I wanted to have a mock service that has to be reliable, auto scaling with and also like self healing features. Okay, so that's where I have this WireMock which provides mocks as a service, and this EKS gives other AWS related features like multiple available zones, auto healing, all those things. So that's where I started using this. But why this EKS? Because in our specific project, we had license for only Kubernetes. For that specific AWS account, we had only because all the applications are running in Kubernetes, and so it happened like we had the license for just using the Kubernetes alone. So even we didn't have option for EC2 or anything. So that's why we started using this, and probably like even we could have used EC2 or something. Like anyone can say like, okay, why can't we deploy this WireMock in EC2? But even if you do an EC2, it's not, you have to have this EC2 in an auto scaling mode, and then you should have a load balancer, and then you should have an API gateway to connect to the outside world. So it has multiple services involved, and you will know like how simple it is when we use this EKS and deploying directly and running. Okay, so probably like I can go to the demo. So okay, I have kept my console open already. So just directly go to EKS, Elastic Kubernetes service. Okay. I will not be able to tell all the Kubernetes terminologies, but you can see this as like master and worker kind of thing. So there will be a master and there will be multiple nodes. This master allocates the job, does scheduling, all those things, or cleanup, all those activities that's done by master, and nodes will be like the assets, the workers. Okay. So here, similar to that, we have cluster and we have nodes. Okay. So first we have to create a cluster. So you can give any name. I'm just giving WireMock cluster, and then we can go for the latest okay, because I already have okay. So I already have WireMock cluster, so I just gave it as one. And Kubernetes version, you can take the latest version. And I have already created a IAM role for this EKS cluster, so that's what I'm using it. Uh, I'm not giving any secret encryptions or tags. I'm just going with the default. And even VPC, I'm just going for default. All other things like subnets, everything, I'm just going for default. And then because I want this to be available public, I'm just keeping it as public. And Amazon networking add-ons and all, I'm just going with the default one itself. And then, yeah, nothing I'm making on the control, and then just go and create it. Okay, so I have already created this cluster. So because it takes a lot of time to get one cluster ready, so that's why I just get it already ready. So I will be using this WireMock cluster for our thing. So once the WireMock cluster is created, you can just go into that. Okay, normally you will not have any nodes here. Just you go to configuration, and then you go to compute. Here you have this add node groups. Okay, so click on that, and now we are going to create the workers. Okay, so it is like worker node or something, like even you can put like WireMock nodes like that, and we have to create a different role for this. So I'm just creating that one. I am using. EKS node IAM role, and I'm not using any templates, Kubernetes labels also I'm not doing. All these things I'm just skipping, or it's just having it as a default one. And here we define what type of instance you need. Okay, so I'm just going for a pre-tier t2.micro. Okay, I'm just giving 10 KB size. So here we can say like how many nodes we need initially. Okay, so the minimum number of nodes and the maximum number of nodes. Okay, and the desired size, like if while starting initially, how many nodes you need. And you can also say like maximum unavailable, how many nodes can be maximum unavailable. So that's where we have it here. So then next, again I'm going for the default subnets here. So once it is there, you can review it and click on create. Okay, so again this will take around 5 to 10 minutes. So I have already created two nodes, like whatever I said, the same thing, same steps I followed, and I have created the two nodes. So if you see here, you can like see the nodes. Okay, so now once it is done, I'm coming to my local system. Okay, so you have to have your AWS configured, AWS CLI, using AWS CLI. So once you have that, you can just check whether you are able to connect it by giving like AWS S3LS, just checking whether I'm doing connectivity. So this is the my S3 bucket. So just, yeah, so it's connected. So once we have this, we have to tell that we are going to use this specific cluster for our EKS. Okay, so we have a command specific to that. So I'll just give that. So if you see here, AWS EKS, and we are updating the kube config in our local with the name of the cluster that we are going to use and the region, okay, which region we are doing. So once you click on this, okay, it has updated configuration. Now, if you see, just to confirm whether it has connected properly to Virtual, get nodes. You should see the nodes that are available for our testing. Okay, so these are available. Okay, so once it is done, okay, I'm just now going to deploy my Kubernetes file. So before that, we will see like what is there in there. Okay, whatever I have containerized previously, I'm just using Kubernetes, okay, for this. Same thing, instead of having just container, I have used Kubernetes here. Okay, so the same, if you see here, it's more like we have the API version. This is the Kubernetes YAML file. This is what we are going to deploy. So what it does, it tells like the image what we are going to get and what port, okay, and the volume mounts, basically the names of that and location. And then we, as I mentioned, we can give the size. Okay, so we just, I'm giving the size like 512 mi and 400 mi memory and CPU, and then again the TCP socket port. And if you see, like I can just give some initial delay, and even I can add few other delays as well. These are just two things. And then I'm also having a load balancer also, like here, and those, and these are the details of those things. Like what I'm going to see is like minimum replicas I'm going to have one, and the maximum replicas as five. And I'm just giving like a target CPU utilization percentage as 10%. I'm just keeping it low so that it can just create additional ports and go ahead. Okay, so this is the thing. And with respect to the mapping files, it remains the same. I just have two static files and whenever you hit on this iPhone 13, this response will be sent, and if you're hitting static, then you'll. So this is what we are going to. And what you have to do is you have to deploy these two YAMLs. Okay, here you can. This is just for the load balancing purpose. Okay, I'm not going to complicate this. Okay, so this is just I'm creating some WireMock and planning to test. Okay, based on the load, once the load increases, we are going to see additional pods and like the loads getting distributed. Okay, so that's what is the plan. So now we are ready with the application, Kubernetes application, and we are going to deploy that in the AWS. Okay, so yeah, I'm already in that file space. I have to give that specific command. Before we deploy the code, before that I wanted to give the mapping files location. So I'm creating, okay, config map wire mock mappings. So I'm just giving the location of that mapping files. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Probably I might get issue because I have already created. So probably I'll just use update command instead of create. I think it's already there, so it's just giving some issues. So it should not be a problem. So probably like I'll just go ahead with deploying the application. So we have a deployment file. So that's what is WireMock. Here we had seen, okay. So that is created and autoscaler is created and the services and other things are created. Okay. So it's all done. So now we have to confirm whether everything is fine. You can just put like kubectl get all. Yeah, you can see the deployments ready and all those things. And also you can see like you got to get pods just to see how many pods are there. Okay, as of now, one is running. Okay, so now if you see here in this service, it is deployed and we got the location. Okay, so this is where we can. This is the endpoint that we have to use for our mock. Suppose I can show you here. So S3 port number slash you get the response from the mock service that is deployed in the EKS. Okay, so if you want the other one, just you want to say like iPhone 13, you'll get that details. Okay, it's all good. So if you want to have a proper name for this, then you have to use Route 53 for this DNS services and all, and then you can have a proper name. So for now, I'm using this. Okay. So now I'm just going to hit this. Okay. Okay. I give that same name here. I'm just hitting here. So I'm just using JMeter for loading the my load testing here. Just it's a simple get request alone. So if you see here, yeah, you can see it. So just let's see whether it's for single transaction it's working. Yeah, it's all good. So now I'm going to run the test. I'm just having it as 300 users here for this first request, concurrent users 300 for here. For the second request, like the static I'm loading with 300 and iPhone 13 I'm loading with 300, just with the ramp up time of 120 seconds and just hitting 100. So it is like almost going to make 6,000 transactions. Okay, so if you see here, just I'm going to start. So it's all running. Now, if we come and see here, we can see like the pods increasing. So automatically, the number of pods will keep increasing based on the. Yeah, I think you can see like it's increasing. So this is how we can load the. We can just do a load test with WireMock service or the mock services deployed on EKS. Okay, using the WireMock. So this is the demo. So I thought I'll be completing in 45 minutes. I'm almost done within 36, 40 minutes. Just I'm bringing in the slide. Okay. Now it's open for questions.
Thank you, Arvind. I don't see any questions on the chat. So, guys, a reminder, if you got any questions or comment, just feel free to post it in the comments, either in YouTube or on Facebook. While that happens, Arvind, I had a question. So, the primary reason why you have WireMock in EKS is to solve the scalability issue, right?
Yeah.
So, have you encountered any such scalability issue when you had like a local WireMock?
Yeah, obviously, like because we have a limitation when we have a physical system, we have a limitation on the memory and we have a limitation on the number of connections we can make to that, all those things. And also, like, that's where we face that issues, right? So that's if you see now, I started getting issues. I know this because I'm using a freeware, sorry, free tier of WireMock. So if we increase, I can show that also. Yeah. So we are having a limitation of 1 GB on this T2 micro. Probably like if you are using like when you are doing for real projects, you can get higher configuration systems in AWS, and this won't happen. Yeah, so that's what like when we use a local system, then we would not be able to have the features that are available in the AWS. Okay, for example, auto scaling, or it be multiple available zones. You are more prone to issues, right? Like if your system goes down or something, then you will not be able to. So that's where we use this cloud features.
Good, sounds good. And now that this is hosted on Amazon EKS, surely with cloud platforms, there's always an aspect of cost that comes into play, and specifically with performance testing, the use of
Yeah.
uh, the infrastructure is quite high on the cloud. So, is that something that the testers need to be mindful of from a cost point of view?
Yeah, definitely. But the cost is it's not huge. Okay, like it depends on how you use. But if you see, right, it's very minimal. Okay, so and also if you have a big organization, the cost will be very less because it's like based on how many connections you make, what is the memory you are using, all those things. So it's very less.
Cool, sounds good. Anything else that you'd like to share, Arvind? I still don't see any questions.
That's it. Probably like we can just give for one more wait for 1 more minute.
Yeah, cool.
I would highly recommend everyone to go through this specific page. Okay, this WireMock page, like where we can see how we do with different options, like all those things. Like it's how to make certain responses more dynamic. Okay, so if you have, uh, I can just show some examples. Like based on some patterns and all, we can do it. So if you see, like, this is what I did. Okay, if you want a particular response, like in this stuff alone, you can send this as a response based on the request. You can send it, and yeah, you can use
Yep.
this datetime helpers also, like where you want to have in different date formats. The response you want to send it in a specific format. Those things you can do it.
Cool. Sounds good. Arvind, we've got a couple of questions coming in now. So first one, someone's asking, how do you analyze the failures logs in AWS EKS?
Yeah, you can have it with monitored through the cloud logs and all. Okay, so I'll just show that also. I've not enabled those things because yeah, normally you can do it through the log. Here you can see the services. Yeah, it's coming up. So and also even the logs we can get it. So I've not enabled because yeah, so those things. So but you can do it through this CloudWatch and get to know about the issues.
Cool. Sounds good. There's another one. Maybe try answering the first one. I'll take the second one. So the question is, any practical implementation examples where you had issues and you resolved it with this solution? Any
Yeah,
practical
this is
examples that you shared?
yeah, this is what, as I mentioned, like this basic motive of using EKS happened due to the dependency in my project. Okay, so where one specific account that I'm going to use, like that I was using, is having license to only EKS. Okay, all the everything in that account. The applications is basically like Kubernetes applications that are using this EKS. So that's when I started using this EKS.
Cool. Sounds good. And to
And
answer
not
your
only my project. Okay, there is one more project in NBN also where they are using Kubernetes. They are like again they are using this WireMock in AWS. Okay, but they are not using Kubernetes. They are using EC2 instances for their testing.
Cool. Thanks, Arvind. And to answer your other half, Kritika, so all of these slides would be available on our ANZTB website. So that's anztb.org. And if any of your friends or colleagues want to look at this but have missed this live webinar, so this webinar would be recorded on our YouTube channel. So I'll share the details after this session. But thanks for your question. There's another comment, great presentations will definitely cost effective than Lisa and offers the same features too. So that's the question.
Yeah, Lisa offers the features, but again, the cost is too high for using a CA Lisa. So if you have like, uh, I can't provide the as such a rate because it's depending on the like the contract that you have with the companies or organizations. But definitely, it's more costly than AWS using this service EKS. And as I mentioned, like it depends. Like for more advanced, if you want to send more advanced dynamic responses, then WireMock might not work. because I myself had worked on Lisa in while I was working with Telstra. So where we have a dependency, like based on the number of builds that is coming up, we have to create that many JSON files or that many content within a JSON files, multiple attributes. So we use Java code to create those things, like, and we take particular value from the request and then send it up. We ourselves create a very dynamic JSON response for, and yeah, so those things and all, it will be the Lisa is the main thing that you can use, because you can create a loops, you can create a if and else conditions. Yeah, all those things are more advanced features are available in Lisa. So that's why it's costing more.
Cool. Thanks, Anjali, for your question. I think that's it. We can pretty much conclude here. So, firstly, thanks, Arvind, for this presentation. I liked how you structured it. You catered to people who are new to performance mocking, and then you actually took us through those advanced steps to how to configure WireMock in EKS, and this is pretty cool. So, thank you. That's something for everybody, and irrespective of what levels. They are in from a testing point of view. So thank you, Arvind.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Yeah, and to all, thank you so much. So, like I mentioned earlier, the slides would be on our ANZTB website. And if any of your friends and colleagues missed out on this live webinar, so we would have this recorded on our YouTube channel. So, thank you all, and have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you all.